Motion to open the meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
First thing we have is the minutes of March 23rd and April 6th.
Motion to accept both. If you read them. I read them.
Seconded by Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
No mail, no appointments. So we have FY '23 revenue update. This one.
Sure. First paragraph on your write-up, we have our forecasted sales for March, April at 156. Last year we achieved 245 leading into the spring season, and we are currently 12% ahead of last year's revenues on that number. So if the weather cooperates, we should beat the forecast rather handsomely. Rounds and revenues appear to be doing much better this season on weekdays, as we just experienced some great weather. So guys came out in droves, and I spoke with Steve and Kev, and they were like, "How many guys are you putting through here?" And I'm like, "We're pretty much sold out." When the weather hit 65, 70, high 70s, the place was packed. And then we've been on a trend. We have a little bit of a pullback of about 127 rounds in comparing weekends, and we've experienced some rainy weather at least one day on the weekend. So we still see a significant turnout in the AM, but these forecasts have led to afternoon showers, so you see a drop off in rounds after like 11:30-ish into the twilight rounds, and that's where where it's dropped.
Well, next Sunday's gonna be a rainy month.
Yes, yep, and they're already pulling off the tee sheet. It was booked through 1 o'clock, and now the gaps are just popping in because everybody's just calling them
Well, they're saying it's gonna be all day.
and pulling back, yeah. So, but Friday and Saturday are jam solid, so everybody's gonna get it in on Friday and Saturday.
How many minutes between each round?
9 minutes intervals.
You're on 9 minutes
Mhm.
time.
And that seems to be running pretty successfully. We don't have any complaints. Everything seems to be moving right along. In looking at the season pass sales and the interest in it, I'm noticing some interest from some twilight golfers. Typically in the past, we've had that price model set so that it was like a $1 to $2 difference between the season pass and your twilight round. Now with the increase on our twilight round, there's a significant gap from our average pass value versus our twilight round. So I'm starting to see some of our twilighters buying pass books, which we've never seen before. So next year I would suggest bringing that up to speed and closing that gap a bit to keep the balance where it's been for the past years. So that's just an observation. And we haven't kicked off with we're going to start doing the grill starting up this weekend. Weather again and getting staffing. Once the kids get out of school, we'll be at full staff. But without the kids, and while we're school in session, I do have some school teachers that I employ as well as the children that are in school. So we typically run a skeleton crew through the spring, and then right as the season takes off full force, we have full staff and we're up and running. So,
How many we have now?
what?
Employees now.
How many employees we have? I'd have to go back and count them, but I would say roughly maybe 15, all part timers,
At this time.
starters and rangers. Yeah. Maybe less than that. Well, maybe between 13 and 15. I had a couple guys that I was looking to, that filled out applications that never came back. I had 5 of them. And they ended up taking jobs at LeBaron and Halifax and other golf courses. So when it comes to the hourly guys, the retired guys are going to look for the best place that they can work at the best rate. And we are a great golf course that they enjoy. But they get a higher rate of pay at other places, so we'll just, we take what we can get at this point.
You gotta put a bigger sign outside though.
Yeah,
Can't
I'm
read those
gonna get a
signs.
guy in a giraffe suit with balloons jumping around.
The tax guy.
Yeah. Doing
Tax season's over, we can
Spinning
get-
the sign.
You gotta do something. That one, you gotta stop and get a,
Yeah, no, actually, I was
microscope
talking
in
with
order to
Dan
read that sign.
from the DPW. He was stating to me and Steve that his signage is extremely successful, so.
Well, his
once-
signage is the big
Yeah.
flashing signs.
Yeah, but it works, so when he's done hiring, maybe we can use him for the golf course.
Yeah.
oh, I mean, we make our own and we can see ours. Ours is pretty big. You can read them and the fly goes here. You can't read them.
Just say it's now
Yeah.
hiring.
Well,
Just say now hiring.
hiring and the telephone number.
Nice and
That's
big.
it.
So,
No, I'm not dissatisfied with the turnout so far. If the people that
Yeah.
I'm considering
and I still have
come
another one
on
for you
board,
too.
then I should be all right. I've got one other part-time equipment operator who, another Acushnet resident who's filling out paperwork. I've got one student already hired who's, obviously, we're waiting for them to get out of school. And I've got two more summer positions to fill. If those are filled, then our total would return to 13, 14 including myself.
And if you get local people applying, so that's good.
Yeah.
That's typically what we get.
And I even had one of the guys who was driving one of the trucks for one of the towns that was assisting us, said he's retiring in 2 or 3 months, assisting us doing the car path, paving. Said he was retiring in 2 or 3 months, was wondering if we'd be hiring by then.
Yeah.
So he said he can only work 20 hours a week though, because he doesn't want
That's
to.
good.
Yeah, well, that's what we usually consider part-time.
So revenues on plan.
Yep, exceeding plan at this point.
Well, it's because we went up. There's less rounds with the extra money.
Yeah, but rounds,
No,
rounds are about on plan.
yeah, they're right on it. We're, as I stated, the fallback was on the weekends with the weather, but your weekdays are up, and overall, and I have to go and fine tune this number, but we're up a couple hundred if I'm not mistaken.
Revenue,
Rounds.
rounds. We are.
On the weekend was 127, right?
Weekend, yes, Saturday.
Weekdays was what?
Weekdays, I don't have it broken out specifically, but, well, your Tuesdays, you're up 31 rounds, Thursday, you're up 65 rounds, Friday, you're up 101 rounds. Mondays, you're minus 14 rounds, and Wednesdays, you're up 38 rounds. Weekend twilight, you're down 106 rounds, weekday twilight, you're up 19 rounds.
The leagues haven't started yet, have they?
Leagues are starting practice rounds this week. Some leagues are starting next week, and then the remainder of the leagues are starting the week after.
So
And we're booking
pulling
outings. On top of that, everything, the schedule's pretty much full for June, July, August, September. I have a couple of Sundays open in those months. Everybody gobbles up the Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And Sundays are the last to fill because it's the Sabbath.
You don't have any errands on the Monday, do you?
We do, some.
Okay.
We usually do those in the morning.
Okay.
And on Monday, I cleared the first 2 tea times, so I got one
We
left.
got the revenue part.
So you should have.
Let's move on from revenue, you think?
Yeah, it's gonna work out good.
That's a good opening so far. It's good to see that
Yep.
people
Yep.
are back and the weather's good.
It's got a little cool,
Yeah,
some frost
that
delays.
one little, yes, yep. High winds, kind of,
Yeah,
that puts a little, it looks like today, but the winds are 20 miles an hour or more. A little chilly on the back nine when the guys come in, the faces are a little bit red.
So we have the cart service cost analysis.
Yes, so So if you look at the packet that I gave you, there's a gasoline and an electric. And speaking with the sales rep, and we were talking about the most economical way to do it if we were to trade in the carts that we just brought in. That would be foolish of us. So we had decided to present to you a rotation of the 34 carts that we have, the older carts, and keep last year's carts as well as this year's carts. There would be 2 sets of 20, so you'd have 40. You replace 34, and presented to you is the gasoline option as well as 2 electric options. And the electric options basically are a electric lithium battery and electric lead acid battery. Lithium batteries warranted for 5 years with no maintenance. Around a $2,700 trade-in after 6 years, compared to a lead acid battery. Requires a monthly water reload, and batteries only last 4 years, so you have to incur a $1,400 cost on the lead acid battery, in addition to the cost of the cart while in its lifetime. And then they only have a trade-in value of roughly $1,700 versus the $2,700 on the other type of battery. The beige colors have been discontinued, which is what we have, and they've been replaced by cashmere, which is a lighter version of what we currently have. It's like an off-white, but it's not stark white. Deliveries are based upon a signed agreement. There is no significant savings on doing a 20 cart rotation or doing the full fleets. However, we would incur your inflationary cost increases as well as the interest rates if they were to increase. So those are some cost savings that you could have if you decided to do a 34 fleet rotation. This year's price increase on cots was roughly 3%. That's for informational purposes. That doesn't really necessarily mean that's what it's going to be moving forward, but that's what the increase was this year. And then, let's see, 30%. And then the option was, he discussed, maybe you guys, if you want to do a switch over, this might be an opportunity for you to decide whether you want to do half your fleet electric and keep your half gas. But that would be something that you would have to decide, and then we'd have to incur the cost of putting in the posts and the chargers prior to getting the electric carts. Now, if I could...
Did you get any information on prices for putting in the charging stations?
I did not, because I don't think that's...
So based on where we are, electric carts, not an option.
Well, he did offer to take me on a road trip. There are a couple courses on Cape Cod that have outdoor storage with no coverage, and they have posts in the ground, and you can set up about 34 stations in the pen if you want to do that. So, I mean, it is an option. However, it's probably not beneficial to the health of the cot and the battery to have them exposed to the elements.
It's not an option for this season or next season.
No, but it's an option if you want to split. If you decide that you want to go electric, it's being introduced as an option if you wanted to. It is an option.
No,
You just
it's
have
a
to
good
decide.
option, and let me make it clear, I prefer electric.
Mhm.
But we need to have a cost analysis and a construction analysis, or whatever it takes,
Right.
to show that it's viable and it's within our capital expense
Sure.
availability.
Yeah. Well, he just got back from vacation today. He made a special trip in to see me today, gave me that paperwork, and if you notice on the electric cot, I was going over his paperwork and I noticed that his numbers didn't look right, and he did a revision over the phone, and that is the revision that you have on the top of the electric cot packet, and his numbers have been revised, and that's what they are. So that's where we're at with that. If you want a further in-depth analysis, we can do that as well.
$8,996.30.
I think from my perspective is, I think it'd be the better thing longer term, but if we're going to do something as far as like the charging area, right, with the infrastructure needed, we don't want to pay an electrician and have all this done to get 34 posts done, if that's not gonna be the location and the, you know what I mean, like long-term what we're gonna do. If we're gonna do it, then we just do it as part of the larger, to me, a larger plan of like what's the whole area going to
So,
look like.
so right now, it's not enough.
That's why I would say for right now, probably not, right?
Right.
Because even if they're not coming till next year, we're still not gonna have a, you know, an updated solution for the
Right.
overall area next year.
Right, so you
I think
establish an
probably just
infrastructure.
So it's good to see what the difference in price is, and just so
Sure.
we have an idea. But I think the charging infrastructure is more, until we have that.
Well, that's going to
what
be
it's going to be.
your sluggish or sticking point, because you
What is that,
can't.
what is that 30,000 to 305,874? Is that for the full fleet?
What number are you looking at?
This
First page,
Right there.
you got there on top.
That's the cost of 34 carts of that model of the lithium-ion electric battery. That's the one that he had misstated.
But 34 cars would cost us $305,000.
And then you take off the trade-in value, and then you have your total on the bottom of 246, 374, and then he has the financing behind it for a 5 or 6 year finance term, depending on what you want to do, because the length of the batteries, some of the batteries last 4 years, and you have to redo them at a cost of $1,400 a battery, and then the other batteries last 5 years. So all the information is in that packet if you want to dial into the specifics.
I just
per
asked
car.
that because on the top it's $305,
Yes,
and in the bottom it says 246, 34, 720.
that's the
So,
one that I called him. I said, look, it looks like
that's
you
about-
added your,
That's about $80,000 more.
you looks like you added your total trades in to your base number, and he said that he had incorrectly put the lead acid battery number on that sheet as opposed to the lithium ion battery, and that's the revision number that you have is the 305.
So he's saying the total 34 carts, 305,874 gross,
Yep,
246, 374 net.
yep,
The difference of 7,246.30 in your net cost per cart as opposed to 8,996.30 in your gross cost per cart.
bingo.
Although, as Ed said, it's a moot point.
Capiche?
I think it's what we want to do.
Yeah, eventually.
So one of you have a place to put it.
Yeah, right.
We gotta build a clubhouse.
Somebody,
So when we had discussed it previously, we had discussed, and when I brought it up, he was like, well, you could do all the charging stations outside. And I was like, I'm not sure they want to make that investment at this point, not knowing what it's going to look like in the future. And then when he was putting it together, he said, well, you can always bounce the idea. Maybe they want to do half the fleet, try electric, put it in the post, check it out, see if they want to go in that direction. And I said, yeah, I'll put it out there and see what they say. So here we are.
So, I think for now, we're on the gas. Especially if we need to order like a year in advance, right? We should probably just say,
Yep,
this
and-
next round, we want to stick with the gas cards.
Which he did state, the delivery date is determined upon the signed agreement date. So the reason why we're getting them this year at a designated time frame is because we signed it on time and we got it in. So the same thing would be.
When they
would
come
occur.
in, the 34 cars.
He didn't actually, I didn't talk to him about that today. It was just,
We don't have 34, we have 20. So, right?
we have 20 coming in, yes.
He didn't say
20
that.
of the presidential models.
Yes.
Which both you and Steve has voiced concerns about. And we ask you to find out is there some improvement with this
And I did,
23
at the
model?
last meeting, I stated they did not change anything with regards to the model, the motor.
there's
It was
no-
rumored that they were gonna change the motor model. They elected not to, and they're moving forward with the current.
Is that the one they having problems with, right?
Well, we seem to see an increase in repairs on that model. However, their company has stated that they have not seen a significant increase in repairs on that model. So, it's kind of a,
It is some that is made by the people that use the cart, I mean, playing with the speed, all that stuff.
I don't foresee that as being the reason why they don't start. I'm not quite sure, I'm not a mechanic, so I don't really know what is the
I'd say it's a
cause of it.
contributing factor. I don't think it's the only factor. I mean, I saw a guy the other day driving through the woods on the right side of 3, not just in the tree line, I mean, back by the back part of the woods. Some people get a golf cart and they just decide that they
It's a
can go
dune
just
buggy.
about anywhere they want to.
What was he looking for, his ball?
It's a
I don't know.
It'd be a
He
good
was-
place to fish.
He was driving around in circles, so he must have been looking for a ball, but, you know, it's...
So we're
it's
looking for the next tee.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to find your ball if you stop the bloody golf cart or pay attention to where the ball goes when you hit it, as opposed to ask your partner, did you see that, Joe? You gotta keep it...
Well, for now, I think we're gonna stay with cars, right?
Yes.
Right,
I
Mr.
think so.
Yeah. But it's good information, right?
No, it's good to see the cost differential even just to get them and then
Right,
knowing.
we can kind of get a picture of when you do go in that direction, that's what you're gonna be looking at somewhat.
Right, so
And you
roughly
get-
$2,800.
See, but when we go electric, we don't need those fancy batteries, right?
Well, there's two options. You can do the ions or you can do the lead acid. So that's why I think he also presented that information so that you can see there are two different batteries. And then probably when you do go that route as well, when we get a full fleet of electric carts, I would highly recommend, depending on the cost obviously, implementing the GPS thing so you can totally control where they go, how fast they go, when they come in, and that gives you the ultimate management of that system, as opposed to chasing them down, chasing them through the woods, keeping them off the curbs of cart paths and whatnot. You just,
So that should be the goal.
that, yes, definitely. I mean, I think you know, that would be your vision, no?
What the cost of all that
Right.
is, and how it fits into our plan,
Sure.
and ultimately that is the recommendation that
Absolutely.
we should go for.
hmm
So
That's what we're shooting to get to.
I know, maybe a little ahead of ourselves, that would also address like Steve's concern about cars out in the parking lot, because the GPS could restrict
Right.
them from going out there.
right.
And you can even message them if once they hit that threshold, it knows where it's at. Carts cannot go in the parking lot. It's the technology is fantastic.
Can you install that in, that the cars would automatically know?
We did talk about that. I thought though the cost, I did inquire, and he's going to get a number for me regarding that. And I can't recall, but I thought it was somewhere in the vicinity of $1,500 a cart to have that retrofitted into a cart. And I'm not even sure if there's a subscription fee that you have to pay for services for global
We
positioning.
need to find out.
So
Best thing is this, to put a gate and the car has to go through there, and there will be a system there that will stop it. And that is the quality. Right.
we could use that around the entire course. That would be fantastic. Little shock wire.
Well, I remember years ago when, and it's been a while since I played golf because of my shoulders, but I played over Waverly Oaks, and they had the system in there. It's a system that everybody had before, the rangefinders that told you where you were, distance to the hole and what have you. And on the bottom, it had a little message screen, and it would send you messages if you weren't keeping up with pace of play, if you weren't where you're supposed to be, when you were supposed to be there. Plus, it would tell you what the daily
Right.
sales, beverage and sale of the pro shop or the clubhouse was too, and stuff like that. But it had a little message board that it was. So they had some way of tracking it back at the
Oh,
pro
that's the
shop.
things we can investigate when we do get into that.
So he just sent me, it's $106 per month for the GPS per cart.
$106 a month?
Mm-hmm.
What about if we buy the cards? We still gonna pay that $106?
Yes, it's a separate entity service. That's not their ball game. That's third party. You'd have to get a satellite if we want to do everything ourselves.
It's a lot like marrying a woman. You own it for life, right?
All right, so we're gonna move forward with electric cars.
Cart
Yes.
rotation schedule. We don't need that now, right?
So we actually did C, instead of, I think what we were just discussing was C, the cart rotation schedule.
Mhm.
Yeah.
B was the cart service, that was that $95.
Yeah, right.
And whether it was.
What the
feelers
recommendation is, right.
Worth it or not.
I don't know, I personally think that, given that, I didn't really think the club car was going to admit to you they had a problem with the
No.
presidential car
Absolutely
anyway.
not.
But
No company would.
I think I would test the water with that first and see, go through it a couple months, see if it's worth our while, especially with newer carts that are supposed to be all on, 99.9% on warranty. So the only thing would
Good
be
point.
the service charge, and if we get into it 3 or 4 months and say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't gonna work for us, then you can always cancel it. But I would look at it first, because like I said, once we get busy again, I mean, Norm's keeping up with the carts now,
Right.
but once
Yeah, it started
once
full
the weather kicks in and it gets warm and stays warm, our machines are gonna be breaking down too, so.
Now you brought on a part-time
Mechanic.
mechanic that could address those, right?
I haven't bought on, Rich was helping with those, I haven't bought on anybody who's got part-time mechanical skills at this point.
Oh, you got Rich?
Oh, we got Richie, right?
Yeah, you have Rich, but Rich is, he's going to be available in the fall. When we start becoming short with folks, he's not, he was here in the winter to help us with the regular equipment. Worked on the exhaust manifold on the sprayer and the exhaust manifold on the diesel triplex. But he's on vacation and down south for most of the summer. He'll be back in the end of August, and we'll be able to pick him up again.
Okay,
to help
so
when
he's
we
not
lose
available
people.
during the
He's not
summer?
available during the summer, no.
All right.
Jesus, that's a bad time to go in a vacation down south.
I just like it hot.
Yeah, I wouldn't go down there.
Neither would I. Too hot up here for me.
I went once, and then I played golf in the beginning. I was on there for 2 weeks and I played golf. Supposed to play 18. We only played 9 because we ran out of gas with all the humidity and everything. I took my shirt off. I threw it in the closet in the hotel, and when I packed to come home, she was just as wet as I packed. So imagine how much
Well,
water was in that.
he's down there in April, and then in the summertime they have a cottage out on the Cape, and they go there for weeks on end. So that's where they.
So they make the money in the winter and they go rent in the winter. and
Well,
then-
both he and his wife are retired, so they have the and the whole
life.
family utilize. I mean, he's got a couple daughters and 7 or 8 grandkids, so they all go down to the cottage and spend the summers down there. So.
So if we can find a mechanic that can work available in summer,
Yeah, if there was somebody available at the point, at the cost point which you're going to pay that has mechanical skills, that would be a benefit to him in his comparison to other people applying for positions. I mean, that's the best I can say right now. Like I said, I haven't had somebody come across the board yet. I mean, there's one person who does, who's got some of that experience. I'm just at the point now where I'm waiting to see if I can get 1 or 2 other summer people that are going to be able to handle some more of the physical work, because the majority of people who have been coming in have been looking for part-time work, and they're not the people that you're going to be putting in bunker edging crews and what have you. Those little things, flower bed weeding and mulching and pruning and whatnot, some of the things that we need to get done, little things that get passed by because we don't have that level of staff member to accommodate that work being done.
All we gotta ask the bunkers. we gotta have
Well, we started working on some of them today. It's just the question, I mean, we've got a lot of, get into it in a minute. I mean, we've got a lot of work to do now that the cart path work is done. I mean, we've got plenty of work to keep us busy. The question is, how that coincides with the things that we absolutely have to do, or else we compromise our
How's the machine
plate.
that we bought you, or the equipment that we bought you to do the edging? Is that working well?
Worked great. Yeah.
So that cuts the time that takes.
Yeah, it cuts the time out, because not only does it cut a nice edge, but it also cuts underneath, so you can just pull things out with a rake or with a pitchfork, as opposed to having to take a hula hoe and scrape it out. I mean, we can go look at the. We did. If anybody's out and about, they look at the left-hand bunker on the 11th hole. Did a real nice job with that, and we're going to start to pick away at the worst ones first. We're going to redefine the edge with a painted line, and just use that to straighten up the edges. And
Which one did you do? What hole was that?
11, left side, the large bunker on the left-hand side, the 11th green. And like I said, right now we're just picking away at them one at a time. Once we get everybody in and back into the full swing of things, and we get some of these other projects like sodding and cart path works and berm,
I'd like
all
to
this
see
stuff out of the way, then we'll be able to get to more of it.
Before I go for an operation, if you get time, Tuesday.
I'm on vacation next week.
Also, you're going away? Okay, that's out.
You can check.
I need my partner there.
So the cart service is still really pretty much up in the air. And the only other thing is, Steve, you said, you made the comment that, we could try it for a few months and then cancel. I mean, I would just want to.
I think it was a
see
year
in writing,
contract.
Right, I mean, are they expecting us, if we were to
It
do
was
this, are we signing up
$95 a
for
year, right?
a certain period?
Per
of
car,
time?
yeah.
So it's so it was $95 per year per car?
Per season, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, right, so it's not like it's for a few months, we're either doing it for a season or we're not. I'm guessing then, right?
That was the proposal. I could check with him again and see if there is a trial basis where
Only
we
because
check
Steve
this out
made
for
the
6
comment
months.
that if it doesn't work out after a few months, we can cancel it. I just wanted to make sure, is that even?
Well, the reason I say that is if they're going to charge you $95 a year per cart for 74 carts, you're looking at about $7,000. So I expect them to do the winterization process of the golf carts for that $95. If we have half of our fleet that sits there a whole year, it doesn't require them to be being called, then there should be something that we get for that $95.
So on the last page of the cart proposals, he did include that for the 34 carts, a pricing sheet, and it says you get 2 scheduled service visits each month, May through October, unlimited emergency service visits placed by email or call, annual and preventative maintenance at factory specs, pre-season tune-up and documentation of all work performed, and the listing of prices below but that was just for the 34 cart
That was
proposal,
34
so
carts,
it's
yeah.
roughly gonna double, which is right
Yeah,
around
about $7,000,
$7,000. I don't see an option for a mid-season break, but I can ask him, who knows?
I mean,
I
you
get
can-
along real well with him, but, I mean, it's all about business, so friendship only goes so deep.
We can look at the expense that we've had over the last 7 to 8 months. I can go back and look at that as far as batteries and everything else is concerned. But again, our carts are
We pay
older,
for the batteries, right?
but you're still going,
Yes.
since our carts are older and they're not warranted, you're still going to be paying for the parts and stuff.
Well, the cart doesn't come with the battery?
No,
Well, it comes
if
with the
there's
battery,
any,
but they're-
once it exceeds your warranty, you pay for all parts outside of the warranty parts. What you basically get is him to come out on demand and fix your carts for you.
I think especially like items 3 and 4, annual preventive maintenance, pre-season tune-up. I mean, what does that mean, like in Steve's world, right?
Right.
Because you know what you would normally do to these carts, Steve.
Yeah.
Then you said you would expect them to do this. Well, just reading a very vague statement like that doesn't tell me if they're going to do what you would expect
Right.
them to do. So I think before we would entertain this, we need to make sure anything in expectation that you would want them to do. Is
Well-
pre-season tune-up meaning we're changing the filter, we're changing the oil, you know what I mean, X, Y, and Z of what they're doing, and you would agree, yes, that's what I expect, or no, that's
Yeah.
not what I expect, just so we have an idea.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, if you're going to get 20 new carts, would you consider just doing it for the 20 new carts?
Well,
That's not a,
And
that'd
then
be a decent idea.
if you take 20 away, so that gives 54 carts
If they do that,
will be
that'd be a
responsible.
nice little test.
Yeah.
and be on-
I mean, because it doesn't-
$2,000.
it doesn't-
In their mind, they're thinking, they're new cots, how many times are we actually gonna have to go? But if we're right and there are issues with the cots, we're gonna find out real fast.
How many times they have to come?
Right,
So
just-
95 for the year, for 20
for
cars.
20 cots. I can ask them about that.
Yeah, I mean, well,
For the
they say it's
new-
$95
Yeah,
per
well,
cart.
1,900 bucks.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. They said it's $20 per cart. They didn't say, you
All the
know,
carts.
have to exceed 5 carts.
Right,
Or
we'll give them the
you know,
numbers, these are the cots on the
I mean,
plan.
if I have 150 carts and they said $95 a cart, they're gonna be sending more than one guy to do my carts.
Mhm.
With 20 carts, you know, if there needs to be service, or what have you, an emergency or something like that, at least we have somebody on the hook for 20 of the carts that we have, and they're new. So all the parts that have to be supplied, you know, unless there's conditions within a warranty that have to be warranted. And I'm just curious, I mean, you know, club car or CCE golf carts on Mass State bid list.
That'd probably be worth.
I'm wondering where in here somewhere
Yeah,
is
but-
the discount that he's giving us for being on the Mass State bid list.
But the real issue, as I see it, is we need to keep the carts running. And that the majority of the carts not running are the older ones.
We're going to be the older ones that give you
Yeah,
the issue.
but they're gonna be piling up. And the concern.
That's a possibility.
We need to get those turned
Mhm.
and back in
Back out.
business. So how many of the 17s do we have? We still got 60 of them, right? We have-
After this year, when 20 go back, we'll have,
Yeah, but you haven't got a commitment this year. When's this year? Have we committed to another?
a delivery date?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
said it's gonna be sometime in the spring.
Right.
So if when we do that, we'll still have 40 2017 cars. With all the issues with them, or as you guys are saying, and whether but we are relying on them. So do we really need to be putting a service charge on those versus the new ones?
Well, yeah, if you could do 20 cots, maybe we'll ask
Or do we do 40, the 40 oldest ones?
before we do, yeah, if
Well, that's
you're gonna-
fine.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
that's
Yeah.
that's an
Everyone's
even
up
better
to break it
idea.
down.
So you can keep on turning.
Yeah. And the last
Every
years and
time
this
I
year's,
come
we
in
shouldn't
the
have
yard, I
issues
see
with
5
if
carts
they're
on
brand
it.
new, right? And then we take care of the older carts. I'll ask them. We just have to document the cart numbers so that when
Yeah,
they
I've
come
got
in.
I've got all the top cart numbers documented, and as soon as they come to a relative conclusion about when they're going to deliver these, I want to specify exactly to them which carts are going back.
Right,
I
yes.
don't want them coming
Grabbing,
here and just
right.
grabbing 20
You should
carts
have
and
them
saying
all.
bye-bye.
Yeah.
You should have
No.
them already.
Well, see, the
picked up.
last,
Should have
the
a
last
full
time,
time.
the last time they came to deliver carts, they did not tell us until
Right.
a day ahead of time that they were, not even that. They just showed up with a tractor trailer with carts on it.
Right.
And
It was
if I had been standing right
unannounced.
there, I would have said, go back and come when, you know, I'm ready for you. I mean, because he's just picking carts and tries,
Yeah.
and it's a good thing Norm was
Somehow
standing there. He said, no, 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 no. He said, these are showing.
I'll talk to them.
We have
to make sure-
clarified. Yep.
We have numbers of carts written down from
Oh, yeah.
what we experienced this winter going through the carts that would be the ones that we would recommend going back.
So
First.
give me those numbers too, which ones we're sending
Absolutely.
back, and I will tell him. So even if we
Put 'em
miss
aside.
the delivery date, well, we need them now. But if for somehow, if they come in unannounced, I'll have the numbers. Isaac will have them, and they will make sure that they only take what they're supposed to take.
So
I mean,
we're-
use them, but keep them in an area by itself. And that way.
Well, I mean,
we know
they're-
they are.
they're
On
cycling-
weekends, they all go out. They're doing
I
two
know, but
turns,
I'm sorry,
2
when
and
they-
3 turns on
But when they come
Saturdays and
back
Sundays.
from using it, put them in a separate area. So you will keep them there all the time, so you don't have to be
Well,
We're
what
all
they
through
need to
together.
do is they need to be told that they need to give us a date that they're
Yes.
coming to pick them up.
But-
Because, I mean, if I'm sitting, you know, if Dana's sitting there at 7 o'clock in the morning and somebody wants to take a cart, he's going, oh, well, can't take that one because we don't
That's
know if they're
going
coming to pick it up.
Right.
You know, that way, to what Manny's point is, if we know when they're coming, those get pulled aside and left aside. So,
And
They just have
Club
to
Car must
tell.
know when
Yeah.
those carts are.
They gotta get a truck,
delivered,
right?
Because
Yeah.
they need to modify those.
well, they need to put them together. They don't get
Put 'em
delivered to them
together, right.
together. They got to put
So,
them together and stuff.
they will know roughly
Mhm.
When you're gonna get
it's
them.
coming.
Yeah, 'cause they have a schedule for their shop too.
So do we have an agreement to go forward with a service contract for the 40?
Well, I'm gonna find out from him if they'll even do that first.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because if he laughs at me, and goes, I'm not gonna do half your fleet, then what? I mean, I'll find out first, and then you guys, if he says yeah, then we'll do it.
Jesus, see,
Or if you could vote it through and say, if they do it, then go ahead and do it.
You have to make a motion for that?
Yeah, why don't we say, like, our intent is to do those 40, as
Mhm.
long as, and if they're willing to do it, then we just go ahead with it, right?
Yeah,
well,
And
yeah.
then, but if they're not, well, then we have to,
we just scrap it.
I would hope so, because it's gotten a significant number of carts from them, and there's Yamaha golf carts out there who are just as good as club car golf carts, in some cases even better, so.
Well, that's why I'm concerned we keep getting this 2023, and it's no better than anything we had before.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't change that. I
Maybe
think
we
they're
need to
just,
be looking at something else.
I think they're just waiting to get rid of those carts.
Probably get stuck
Well,
with it.
they just want to get rid of the presidential line, because they discontinued it, right?
And they definitely
Yeah.
aren't gonna talk bad about it if they're trying
Yeah,
to
so all the
move it.
ones that they've got stuck
So
in
are they
inventory somewhere, they're getting rid of.
discontinuing?
No, we're just saying, like,
Oh,
ad
right.
hoc.
Oh.
If you were stuck with them, wouldn't you say they're great carts and you're trying to move them out so that you can get them off your hands?
Yeah, they want to get them
Like
out of
discount
inventory.
them, get them the hell.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Anyway.
So do we have funding for this? Or will we need to dig into the reserve?
You would probably have to use the reserve, I would think. Or,
But
I can,
there's still enough reserve so we can.
yes, there's enough reserve, and I probably will have, salary savings from hourly employees, at the end of the year. Because I was looking at that number, and I'm pretty ahead of schedule.
so
We
it'd be,
need-
so it'd be 3,800.
Yeah, 3,800.
40 cards. I'm sure
We
it's
should,
there
we
somewhere.
should be able to do.
Yes.
So we need a motion for,
For the,
40 old cart service
try the
plan,
service plan on the 40 oldest cards.
Yeah, that's what I.
if in fact they will
Yeah,
service
service,
only
if you get the
40.
service, the 40 oldest cards, you know,
So you're making that motion?
yes, I did.
I'll second.
Maybe seconds it. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
as if they can do it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Point of sale, recommendation.
Yes, so, I don't have an update regarding any negotiations with Mr. Kelly and, for, Golf Now, for reservations. I did sit down today with the Chelsea reservations, and we did a Zoom meeting in this room with, Carla and Nick, and we discussed, their concerns and ideas regarding reporting and features and functions, which has led us to schedule another additional, Zoom meeting, Q&A with additional staffing that are involved with the process, so we can walk through all the reporting features, make sure that all of the numbers that are needed by the town are available on reports, and we're also trying to see if we can integrate their direct reporting into a third-party integration tool to send it to the Munis report, so the town can just take the numbers right out of the system and put it into Munis rather than have to transpose everything off of hard copy numbers. So we're in the process of working through that situation, and I'll have more information regarding our backup plan should the negotiations fall through with Golf Now and the Town Hall.
And how is that negotiation going?
As I just stated, the negotiation with Jamie Kelly and Golf Now has not transpired yet.
So when is it scheduled?
Because when Manny and I met with Mr. Kelly, he said he will put it on a fast track, so.
Well, I was in the office today, as I said, I did my orientation here with his departments, and he was unavailable because he was in other meetings, and I haven't had a chance to speak with him. And you cannot get to Mr. Kelly until you speak to Tanya, who schedules the appointment with Mr. Kelly, which we are in the process of doing.
Because we don't want the system to crash.
Back to cash and carry.
When we're over with Gulf now? With this present contract?
The contract we signed was in 2001.
And we haven't had so we don't have a contract with them.
No, you don't.
And they said it could crash if we don't
They
do
said
this
yes.
or do that.
Supposedly, the sales pitch to sign on immediately under their current upgraded system is that there may be some conflicts in communications with the Microsoft servers and their servers, potentially. And should you decide not to sign on with them, then they cannot support you if there is a crash. However, you may be able to work with the system and have it be flawless as well. So then they stated an August date last year, and then this year they stepped it up, saying that you would need to commit by the end of June if you wanted the support for the new upgraded system.
It's ticking. Time is ticking. How much
They're still $1,000 a month, right?
on the?
Oh yeah, no, it's $1,000, $1,100 annual plus the fee went up from 5,000 I think to 12,000,
Right, I think.
and then they
What
were.
benefit we really get out of that?
Well, it did help. And when you first built the course, it was instrumental because you guys were doing paper books. So to have an electronic T-sheet, it was state of the art, and they are ahead of the competition. As I stated to the staff at the town hall today in the meeting with Chelsea, they are a bare bones POS system. They give you good reporting options, and they give you a T-sheet, an electronic T-sheet that has a booking engine that you can book through a mobile app or your website. But they don't offer any database marketing programs, no templates, any bells and whistles are obsolete. But in speaking with her and in looking at the Cape Cod analysis, Old Barnstable has used them. Dennis Highlands has used them. I visited both of those courses, talked to those director of golfs. They haven't had any issues with it. Captain's Golf Course uses them and has been their customer for 20 years. Those are all municipal operations. We're doing
This is Chelsea?
Chelsea reservations.
So
But they've also had the luxury of 4 million tourists and 350,000 tourist golf rounds that we didn't have. So to build the business, you needed 4 reservations to get to where we're at now. If now where we are in our marketplace, once our report comes out, you can compare our numbers to what is presented in this report, because this report is actually half of our market, because our ring band expands to Mid-Cape. So we do compete with Dennis and Old Barnstable. You have a trade barrier, which is the Bourne and Sagamore Bridge, but you still do peel off a few of those rounds, because I just had guys today that said they're on a 4-day golf trail trip. They started our course, and they're going to do, Plymouth and Cape Cod. So we do see a small percentage of the golf rounds that come through here. But you'll be able to compare our market with this market and give you a full picture of what we're looking at. But if you did look at this, you'll see that we have, and in this document prepared by the NGF, they have stated in here that Captain's is a flagship operation on the Cape. Dennis Highlands is a flagship operation on the Cape, and Old Barnstable is a flagship operation. They are the market leaders in this report, and we're doing as many rounds as they are.
So what are you trying to say? What are you trying to state?
That they are about comparable
That-
with the other one as
that
far
we
as
don't-
getting around.
That we don't
Chelsea
need
seems to
golf now?
I'm saying that if you want to use Chelsea, you probably could, but I'm letting you know that it's not the same thing that you have right now. You did need it to get to where you're at. I wouldn't pull the cord on it based on nothing at all and just say, let's try Chelsea. If you have a reason to, then, you could segue into it.
So we need to get the
It all comes
accounting,
down to negotiations. If Jamie can get them to where you want them to be, then stay with them. If they can't and they don't bend and they don't break, then you guys can make a decision, do what you want to do.
What's the difference
As
in
long
pay?
as-
that we-
Chelsea's 5,000 annually, and Golf Now is 12,000 plus the tee time every day.
which we spent, which they got $50,000 worth of.
At our rate, at our
At our
rates.
rate.
They sell a discount rate. Previous to us,
So
pre-COVID, they
it's
were
now
about 13,000, then
But
it went
it's
upwards of
50,000. But
28,000.
it's 50, excuse me, it's 50,000 we don't get.
Correct. And so at our
Two
rate,
tees would be 100 grand.
no, you wouldn't do two tees. One tee time and the 12,000 is the option.
One tee time and 12,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Was there
But,
any,
so
is
what-
there any
what-
option that's no tea time at all with them?
No, they don't have a no tea time option. But in speaking in this process of research, Golf Pay and the other one that the Allendale's getting out of, those software companies, they would do a split on the revenue from the tee time. So this is where I would leave Mr. Kelly and say, listen, if you can get these guys to back into a corner and go, listen, $5,000, same, or we'll do the $12,000 or an in-between number between 5 and 12,000, but we want to split the revenue on the tee time. We'll find some type of comparable negotiation spot where they're comfortable with, then that's where I would lead it to. However, that's not my authority.
So the worst case, we give them the tee time.
Which we've been doing.
Yeah, right. And we take, it goes from 15 or whatever to 8 to 12,000.
Yes. From 5,000 to 12,000. So you're going to pay them $7,000 more.
No, it's not 5,000.
I'm sorry, 1,100 to
Yeah.
12,000. Sorry.
So it's another $10,000.
Mhm.
So that's what we need to go, that's what we need to figure out.
Mhm.
Which is,
What's really the trading, the tea time is really the bigger, right? Because if it was just, if every competitor was the same with the tea time, either they had or didn't, right? We're looking at 5,000 for Chelsea versus 12 for this, and we're getting our $7,000 worth with it. But it's 7,000 plus the tea time we're giving away, right?
Mhm.
But that's, yeah, but Golf Now has a better presence of people using the app, Chelsea, you can
So you
you
give
can
them
run it
one
through
tea
like
time
your
a day,
website. If
right?
somebody goes to your website and they want to make a book of tea time. There isn't going to be an app like Golf Now if I'm just searching for golf next Saturday in the area
Right.
and see what pops up. Well, we would lose the customers who would find us that way. But if they know they already want to play with us, and we just say, hey, just go to our website on your
yeah,
phone,
just
click it and do it.
enhance our
Then you can
website.
still do it that way.
Mhm.
So what we would be losing is the people who just find us through Golf Now.
Mhm.
And then is that worth around a day?
And so my point with stating what was in here in the rounds and the populations and the tourist rounds was the fact that they never needed Golf Now because they already had a captive audience on Cape Cod from the beginning of time when those courses were constructed. They have people coming in and they're just swamped. So with 350,000 tourist golf rounds every season, they're battling for that. Plus they have their memberships. And so we've kind of we fought for where we're at.
It says
We
it's
grinded.
That also says it's a very competitive market on the Cape. All those golf courses are full.
It's a competitive market everywhere. I mean, that's why Hawthorne doesn't exist and Allendale's struggling and they've jacked up their rates. So that was going to be part of my presentation is I'm hearing complaints, not about our rates, but about our competitors' rates, how high they've jumped, and people are actually pleasantly surprised at where we're at. So,
Have we done that surveys of all the current rates?
I haven't, because when we started looking at it, nobody had opened yet. So now that everybody's open, I'll see if everybody's got their peak rates up or if they're just offering spring rates. But I heard a ton of people already at Allendale, they actually went there to golf, and the guy told them the rate. They got in their car and they came to Acushnet. And he said, "Can you believe what he just tried to charge me?" And I went, "Really?"
All right.
So we're holding our own, we're doing well, we've got a pretty good handle on our competitive market right now, and definitely, if we're competing with the big boys on Cape Cod, we're doing what's right for the town and for the brand of Acushnet River Valley.
So we don't need government. Worst
Well,
case, and save them money.
Like I said, Chelsea is a good plan B. That's what I'm looking at it as.
It is if Nick and Carla feel that they can get all the information they need to deal with our financials calculations.
Sure, and to speak to that, I spoke with the acting director in Dennis, and she was actually the assistant treasurer who had moved into the golf department and works at the course now. And she's like, we don't have a problem, and it fits everything we need.
I know the town of Dennis uses Munis, so, I mean, whether they're interfacing.
She doesn't.
directly or not.
They don't do a direct interface. They still do a hard copy reporting and a nightly drop like we do currently. But they said that they'll try and find a way to integrate it.
We got to compare.
We just don't want to find ourselves in a position where we get shut off.
No.
So we just need to know whether we're making a jump to something or we're going to just.
Well, you don't want to jump into a black hole either.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. If we're comfortable where we're at, and you can get it to a point where you're comfortable, because listen, one tee time doesn't impact the day at all. Whether Steve's doing the same thing whether we put out one person or 300. And as far as squeezing tee times and making stuff happen, I've been doing that for 20 years. A Golf Now tee time that in the future we will pick a more opportune time where, and it doesn't sell every day. It sells, a lot, but sometimes they don't even get to the tee sheet.
And it's not an easy thing to just switch software, so I mean, if we can come to an agreement with them through Jamie, I mean, maybe this season regardless, we still just get through this summer and this golf season with Golf Now, however that works out amicably, hopefully, and then just see.
And set our program up
and
to
then spend the
implement.
off-season
Right.
really figuring out is that where we want to be longer term, because to just dump one T-sheet program, have another one, get your website beefed up, doing it better, so get that out there to people mid-season, I don't think is a good idea either. That's the stuff you want to do in
Yeah, you don't want
December,
to do
January.
that in June,
Not
July,
June,
especially
July.
being a municipality where you're approaching the end of a fiscal year and so on. That would
And
really.
you do lose your sales history. That is not carried over. You get your database and your product inventory gets carried over. Your sales history is dropped. Like, you can back it up and put it in Excel and have a backup, but you don't have any type of reporting mechanism. You'd have to go in and surf through it, get what you want, and pick it out. So it's food for thought. But like I said, we do have a plan B ready to go that will fill the void if we deem it necessary to be.
So we have operations, I know we've been talking about some of these things already on your list anyway, but it's just,
Go,
I
yeah.
think, yeah.
So the pro shop, I've got a couple of gaps left in apparel that I'm gonna fill, small things. And then I was speaking with John, and I had already started this because this is our 25th anniversary. So I've been working with one of our vendors to get some 25th anniversary hats and shirts in the shop. So if we do some type of celebratory promotion for residents, if we were interested in doing something like that, I could have items specifically ready for that process. And if not, even still, when we hit August, it is our 25th year, I'll have promotional gear to celebrate that. So, as far,
I It's a
Yeah.
good idea for the people who like to have something that.
Right.
that-
That says
that's a little bit
Acushnet on it.
different, Celebrates our 25 years, so.
Yeah, it's a big milestone. I
Yeah,
mean,
it is.
repairs, I'm working with Coke on getting some replacement refrigeration. I'm not sure that they will fill the void of both machines. So we may have to embark on a purchase of a 2 sliding door kitchen refrigerator at some point this season. So I'll start getting some prices and see what we can come up with. We're gonna need that. So my concern is if we lose that outdoor refrigeration unit due to demand, where it belongs, we're gonna need those refrigerators drastically. Right now, I can get away with loading up the big fridge and transporting stuff back and forth, but I wouldn't wanna be caught without.
Where would you put it?
Right now, we can go to your house, your fridge. You're the closest
you're gonna
place.
buy
Maybe put it in the fridge.
Oh, I just put the chairs. We're going out with the rental chairs.
And then, just a quick question on Mondays, if we're gonna be doing maintenance Mondays this season, if so, when will they begin and when will they be finishing, so that we can put that on the calendar and prep around it. I missed this week, Steve had spoken with Isaac. Isaac had put it on the calendar, and I worked on Monday morning. I just built the sheet because I didn't think we had anything planned as of yet. And so we're kind of, we've created some gaps for Steve to get the stuff done that he needs to get done this Monday. But if we're gonna do this on the regular, if you guys wanna pick it out, I can put it on the sheet, and we can work around it.
How did it work with you having that time off on a Monday? Did that help any or just?
The past season, it worked well on the days that we were able to do it. 4 out of the 7 or 8 days that we had scheduled maintenance Mondays on the last fall, it rained. So we weren't capable of doing the particular task that we had envisioned doing. But I mean, it's always, it's always a benefit to have that extra time to be able to address, top dressing or other issues that take longer and don't allow us to stay ahead of golf. It's always nice to have that time for spraying fairways, which takes 3/4 of a day, takes 2.5 days with only one machine. Now we'll be able to, cut that time in half because we have 2. But it's important to have that time to do these extra things that are outside of routine. So, I mean, it's, like, as I had mentioned in the past, and we've discussed it, for the most part, it's a standard in golf, in maintenance. I mean, you can go and read the USGA's articles on it and so on. It just depends on how you want to run it. Do you want to run it a portion of a day? Any extra time is beneficial. And usually Mondays are chosen because Mondays are slower days for most folks. Now, obviously, we wouldn't be doing it on days which we have Monday outings, of course, because that would preclude us
So-
doing anything, so.
Do we have a list of Monday outings already?
It started to be filled.
So you can see the window?
Yeah, well, to have that schedule would be beneficial at the beginning of every month, so, 2 or 3 months, for instance, this month, the last week of April, which is next week, if I go in and get May's schedule, I can look at it and say, okay, well, this Monday and this Monday is occupied, so we should go with those other 2. Or, we have one Monday in May already occupied because we're doing greens aeration on the 8th and the 9th. So that's the first, so we wouldn't need something the second Monday after that. We'd probably go to the last Monday of the month. Then the most specific months are June and July and the first half of August, because those are the times when you need to get these things done. Obviously, they're your busy time, so you can't do them all in one fell swoop. So, I mean, I would, if you were to ask me, I'd look for 2 Mondays a month at a minimum.
That was my question. If
Yeah,
2 months.
if you have 4 weeks in a month, you had 2 Mondays a month that we can set aside, and then 2 Mondays that we don't. And
That was my next question to
Yeah.
you.
So
If you're satisfied with 2
We're
months.
looking at June, July, and August, identified 2 Mondays,
Per month.
Yeah.
minus holiday and outings.
Do you guys have a number that you're willing to sacrifice for those days?
A number?
And what's the, there's a,
If I can,
I mean, we're talking about a trade tee time for software, and then we're talking a big difference between one tee time and
right.
a Monday.
I just don't want to hear that we didn't top dress greens because we didn't have time to do it.
Well, what I'll put out there is this. I've been doing this for over 30 years. I would like to have someone show me how I can get done, what I need to get done with the staff I've got and the
Yeah.
time I've got if I don't have these
But that's
extra
what's-
days.
but
So
that's-
that's all I'm putting
That's
out
what
there.
started this.
Yes.
We're going to find out we're not top dressing greens for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Didn't get done on a schedule. That's worth a lot of money.
Okay.
So,
Do
But
we
let's-
truly have less staff than we had for the first 23 years? No. Right, if we're going to year 25, last year was 24, so for the 23 years prior, that we didn't even entertain this.
we had a lot of open times to do.
You
She
weren't as
wasn't
busy
full.
in the past as you are now. And yes, we had, the difference we had so much in staff isn't the exact number. It's those that are capable of doing the particular task that we need to have done. And at time, and this is not to say that we haven't been top dressing greens all along. I'm saying is to do the process properly, where you top dress, you spike, and you brush, and you water. There just isn't enough time when people are only an hour and a half behind you. And even if they're not only an hour and a half behind you, 95% of the time, the first 2 groups that we
They're
put
gonna
out
catch
on a
you.
Monday morning, the suckers are done in 2.5 to 3 hours.
Less,
I mean, it's like, I don't know how they enjoy the game anymore. It's just
They
like
don't.
bang, 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 bang,
They
go.
don't.
So that
That's
extra
exercise.
time,
Yeah.
I mean, even if I could get, I hate to do it, but even if I get 9 holes done and 9 holes the next day, but the problem is, especially in your busy time of the season, that means that I cut 9 greens with one mower and differently than the other 9 greens because I'm going to be running into sand and I'm not going to be putting a good mower in sand on, whereas I could take one and run it through, and then right after that first cut, I can go out the next day with a machine that's completely set up, and I won't have an issue with the cut because I wasn't running through sand. I mean, I found ways. I mean, we can talk about how things are done. I found ways to get these particular things done, but and I'll be quite honest with you, to get them done now has just been more difficult to get them done. And there's more things to do as things get older. And, I'm referring to, whether it be bunkers or whether it be, tee renovation or something like that. There's additional things to do, and when you have more play, you have to do more things in order to keep things in the shape that you want them to stay in. And I haven't ever skipped greens top dressing. I just haven't been able to do it as frequently. I'd like to be able to do it every week and a half to 2 weeks at a minimum. I know some guys do it every week. If everybody talks about, well, how fast can this green be, or how quickly can that go, or how healthy can this be? The more stress you want to put into it, the more inputs you have to put into it, and inputs cost money and cost time.
I do have a
just- I just wanna know-
2-hour gap every day between 1:30 and or 1:40 to 4 o'clock when the league starts, or 1:30 to 3:30 on Mondays. There's 2 hours all summer long once the league starts, if that helps.
Yeah, but I'm not going to go out at 1:30 in the afternoon on an 85-degree day and top dress and brush a green. There's just no way. It's just too hot and it's too taxing on turf to be doing that at that time in the day, and it's foolish. Yeah, you can go out there and do it, you get away with it once or twice, but you're gonna be sitting right here. And if you fall off of there and you lose your green, then you're SOL.
So it has to be done in the morning?
Well, it's better to do it in the morning because it's cooler, you can get it watered in properly, and so on. And you have, the significant number of staff at that time. I mean, my staff gets cut in half at 11 o'clock, at minimum. Because part-timers, 20 hours a week, you can either work 4 or 5 hour days or 3 6-hour days. And now, some of these part-timers that I'm hiring, I'm requiring to work on weekends because I want at least 4 people on a Sunday and at least 4 people on a Saturday. So that takes time away from their during the week time.
Right.
And right now, until we train a couple other people, your top dressing, brushing, and rolling crew is Kevin and I and Norm on occasion when he can help out. And and Troy is the second assistant. I get a couple more people trained, it'll go a little bit quicker. But to roll 18 greens, it takes 4 hours. The 2-hour gap in the afternoon is not going to help, and it's really not a good thing to do in the afternoon. I know some guys split shift, which would be nice, but because of our leagues, you don't really have enough time to split shift, because once you get past that hour and a half, then you're putting people out there. And the last thing I want to do is be sitting out there at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, messing up some guy's league who, that's the one thing he's been waiting for all day. Once a week to do it. So the most beneficial time to get these practices done is first thing in the morning, especially if it's a pesticide application, because by law, you are supposed to wait until that material dries on the leaf blade before people are out there physically playing. And when you don't have that window, then you run into problems. And you can't have, you shouldn't be spraying a fairway and 5 minutes later 5 guys are playing golf on it. Not only are they, basically what they're doing is they're picking up material with their tires and moving it all over the place, so it's not where it's supposed to be because it didn't have time to dry. So that's why we try to get those extra times. And be quite honest with you, 15 years ago, I didn't have the budget to spray fairways the way I do now. So I wasn't doing that much because we just didn't have the money. Even now, with an $85,000 pesticide budget, most of the guys giggle at me when I tell them how much they spend. You go around the corner and he spends 140. That's pesticide, that doesn't count, fertilizer. So, the long and the short of it is it provides an opportunity to get things done. I will find ways to get things done, but then when I find those ways, what I usually end up doing is getting yelled at by golfers and other people and making more enemies than friends.
If I could speak, as Steve stated his concerns, my concern.
Yeah,
We've worked very hard to drive the business to get it to where we're at, and to lose Monday play and put them to a competitor, it goes against, defies all business senses. So that's why I asked for money. What is the threshold where you find is an acceptable amount of money to throw at the Maintenance Monday program so that he can get done what he wants and we don't cross a threshold where we're getting rid of our Monday play and pushing them to our competitors to play?
And understand, so this is not what I want. This is what your golf course needs to sustain that play. This is what your golf course needs to keep on going and improving. It's not what I want, because believe me, I'd rather come walking in here, I'm not a late person, but 7 o'clock in the morning, drive around and make sure I don't get any water on my patent leathers like most of the guys who've been doing this for 35 years do. But that's not me. I'd rather be here at 4:30 in the morning, and I'll bring my guys in at 5 o'clock in the morning so we get an earlier start, as long as I know that I have that earlier start and I have the time.
Steve, I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
What's the speed that you think you're going to get our greens to this year?
This year, I'd say if I can keep it consistent and the weather doesn't screw me up, I'd say probably 10 and a half, 11. I don't necessarily want to push it that much further, just because, I mean, you know,
Rounds.
you do that on a Saturday, I mean, you got people for a 6.5,
250
7 hour
rounds
round.
jammed up on one person that's
Yeah.
full putting.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the thing we have to
They're
understand.
They're better now.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, they're hard as a rock right now. I mean, and the roller, you know, the newer style roller makes a significant difference. And with the top dressing, and with growth regulation, we're allowed to adjust our height. And you'll even see significantly better or more difference when we actually get to 3320 greens mowers, because they're a 14 bladed reel, which will give us a much better clip rate, and it'll give us a smoother surface overall. We're out to, you know, not only, I mean, top dressing isn't the only thing we do on maintenance Mondays. And we verticut, and, you know, be able to verticut, blow off, top dress, and brush. You know, that's a 3 to 4 guy operation, and it's gonna take you 5.5, 6 hours to get all the greens done. But those are other things we get to done, and that's what I'm, you know, to answer your question, man, that's what I'm shooting for. I mean, I'd love to go out there and you know, spike you at 12.5, but, you know, like, you know, we'd have a lot of
Would be
yelling
nice if-
people in the middle of the fairway.
Maybe swear. There'll be a
Well,
lot
I
of
mean, you
swearing
know,
going on.
you know, you play a 6.5, 7 hour round, you're not gonna be a happy camper. I mean, that's a full day's work.
Not everybody has your game, Manny.
No, well, what is the average round now? I mean, he just says 5, 6, or 7 hours.
No, he said if you do a fast green,
If you push the
if you
green
push
speed
the
too
green
far.
speed too fast, guys will be out there forever. Right now, we do 4.5s for the most part, and then occasionally we like today we had a guy, a threesome stuck behind a foursome, and they complained. But you're never gonna please everybody, and we chase this all the time.
No,
But
we have hours over there pretty quick. And
We
then
do
there's
pretty
another-
good.
We can do a 3.5 hour round with fast greens. And this,
You guys are good.
Who's
Yeah.
Lee?
Our customers can't do 3.5 hours. I have like maybe 20 guys
well, you
that can
gotta
do
spend
3.5
like,
hours.
you gotta keep the ball in the fairway. You can't
Oh, yeah, I
keep the
understand.
ball in
Yeah,
the woods
understand
and try to
too,
make
you know,
time.
where you're playing and how many people you're trying to put through and so on. And I mean, you know, you look at, I wish I bought the graphic. They just put a graphic, I think the USGA put it out, or one of the researchers put it out, the number of footprints a foursome puts on one green. And you look at the, if I'll have it for the next meeting, if I can find it, I'll email it out to people. I know I have it in my computer somewhere, but I don't want to spend the time now. But it's in the thousands, you know, and when you get up to 225 people a day, I mean, that's a lot of footprints around the cup. And now this ridiculous thing about people not pulling the pin out, sticking their hand in there, and volcanoing the side of the cup, I mean, there's a
Now
lot.
let me ask you a question about the cup. Do you temper your cup down after you cut it?
Do I tamper it down? We cut the cup, and we have it's a cup setter, and that cup setter goes down to make sure that the cup's at the appropriate depth. And that, I think what you're referring to tampering down is what that device does.
Right,
I
yours
put
has
it-
a shield.
What that device does is keep it flat around that hole, that the ball doesn't get to the edge of the green and takes a right turn or a left turn.
Well, no, I mean, it's just it's not a tamper per se. It's a cup setter. I mean, it's a round device, got a handle on the top of it, fits inside the cup, sets the cup at the right height. I spin it around once. Some people step on it, spin it around, and so on. But then that's basically what you do. You know, we have depth gauges on the cup cutters, so both the cup cutters go down to the appropriate or the same depth. Is what's, you know, considered the right depth. Sometimes you might not get it quite as far just because the greens are so hard, and sometimes during aeration you might go down a little bit deeper. But I can tell by, you know, after doing it for 27 years, I can tell by looking at the top of the cup whether it's set too high or set too low, and then just go back and correct it. But there is no, I mean, the only thing that could equate to a tamper is once you put the old plug back in. A lot of people take a piece of pipe or a round cylinder and roll it over top of the old cup just to make sure it's set down. I was always taught to use basically what looks like an ice pick to lift the outside edges up a little bit, and then I tamp it down, you know, with my foot. And like I said, I can tell by touching with the top of my foot with the shoes that I wear, whether it's set properly or not, just by the feel.
But some ones, don't they have a little flat thing there with the handle here, and they just don't
What some of them do is they use a plate.
Yeah,
And the reason they use a plate is because in years past, they had used, and some guys even used it with the hammer setters. Guys would twist, and when they twist, they'd also twist their feet on the side by where the cup is. So some people will stand on the plate, and all the plate does is has a hole in the middle where the cup cutter goes. The plate is more for protection from what your feet do to the putting surface than anything else. Now they have, if you want me to go out and buy the $2,000 hammer cup cutter, I can go out and do it, but it's no different than the one that I use cost $700, except it's got a longer handle. Now everybody and their brother wants to buy it because they set the 16th hole in some PGA tournament on TV, and they had the guy out there using the thing. Now everybody thinks that that's the way to do it. But if you go, there was a little thing from Augusta National. The same guy's been setting cups on Sunday at Augusta National for 20 some odd years. Nice old fella comes out there, does exactly the same thing I do. Brings his little hammer. She shows you. His little video. Twist. He used a twist. I can't use the twist anymore because of my shoulders, so I use the hammer setter. Kevin still used the twist, and he goes about showing. Okay, and then you pick up this edge, put the water around the old cup, roll the old cup out so it's smooth. Made a little video. Same guy's been doing.
well, unless you do that, because most places they don't do that. A lot of places they leave it with the lip up, and the ball just goes.
Yeah, no, it should be flattened. I don't.
And then a lot of they don't cut the cups every day. Then the edge wears out, and then
Yeah.
you get the ball splits
It
right
spits
out.
Yeah. That's why I don't like people sticking their hands in there.
So golf now, we talked about golf carts, we talked about,
So we're gonna look at June, July, and August
For the Mondays.
for Mondays,
Yeah,
and identify potential
top
dates.
dressing in particular, and versus outings.
yeah, and I'll start. I'll May. Let me see. It's the 24th. I might top dress once before we start. Before we do the greens aeration. I usually start in earnest after the greens aeration because, of course, you're putting down a significant amount of sand at that time.
Aeration is 8 and 9.
8th and 9th of May.
So you may do a top dressing before then?
I may squeeze in one. I had originally planned to do one this Monday with with the spiking spiking aeration, but I decided against it just because I didn't want to make it too long of a project given that we only had a certain amount of time. Once we progress into the month of May, we'll be starting earlier and earlier. Right now we start at 6 o'clock. A week from Monday we'll be starting at 5:30, and then at some as soon as the light, I think it's the third week of May, it's going to be light at 5:15 or 5:20. Then we'll be starting at 5 o'clock.
So let's look at June, July, and August. We'll
Yeah.
reconvene and see if we can reach a consensus.
Yeah.
Good plan. So golf now, talk about golf carts, talk about insurance, just need to make sure there's no lapse in that coverage, even if it's just getting Jamie's
Yes,
signature
so
on the
I haven't had a
policy.
chance to speak with Mr. Kelly in regards to an indemnification clause for town employees listed on the liquor license to be included in that policy. But I would think that you guys would have to motion and vote it, that you want to make that so on the policy before I could even present it to him. My position is we're all one here. The golf course and myself are working united to make as much money for the town as possible with food and beverage. And in reading this report, with the competitive analysis of all those competitors on the Cape, those guys operate their food and beverage operations at a plus or minus 10% margin, and we operate at a 40% margin. So we are leagues ahead of them with regards to that, with what we have. And with that, I would think that we would want to protect the town and myself as much as possible with that business. So that's what I'm looking for.
I didn't get the
We
first.
operate at a 40% margin.
You do about 70,000 in food purchases, and you have about 20,000 in labor. That's 90,000. You do about 160 to 170,000 in food sales.
I just don't understand what insurance you're looking for.
It's the liquor
The liquor liability
As long as
insurance.
the town has liability insurance. You're included in that
Yeah,
liability
it should be
insurance.
the town
I think
employees.
he's just trying to
I
make
think there's
sure
some
that he has-
confusion with regards to that.
Everybody has to have liability insurance in town.
You would think so, but
Well, it wouldn't hurt to
I'm not-
verify it because.
I'm not quite sure that
Right.
that transpired. When Alan was here, they didn't do it for 16 years. When Brian Noble came in, he made it part of the program, and then there's some discussion. I haven't seen anything. I do have a copy of the policy that Brian did, but I don't have
So
anything
how's-
after Brian.
What's
So
that?
how does that policy stack up?
I haven't seen a policy since Brian left. That's my,
But where's that policy?
was what policy?
Where is the policy you saw?
The one that Brian gave me?
Yeah.
It's at the pro shop.
All right, so we can have Jamie take a look at that.
Sure.
I have no trouble.
Well, I
The
don't
cost
believe
is
that that
fine.
one has an indemnification clause in it as well, which is my concern. One, that they haven't even done the insurance, and two, that I'm included in it to be covered as such,
Right.
as part of
And
Acushnet
that's
Rift Valley and the town.
I think if that's what we need to make you feel comfortable about it,
Sure.
just discuss it with Jamie. And the cost, the cost that I saw was $2,100. So if that covers everything, makes everybody happy, I'm fine with it.
Hey, we should look at that. I mean, my name goes on the gas every year. There comes out from the town clerk, the form that I have to sign. And in the past, they required I put my social security number on it because to be the person responsible for overseeing
An
the
explosion.
gas tanks and distribution of the gas from the golf facility. And, and my wife's in the insurance business, and, she said, you make sure you're covered for that, and you're covered appropriately.
Mhm.
That's why at some point, some guys give me a hard time because I don't want to leave the
I
gas pump
realize that.
open for them, but my name's on that paper.
I think
That's
both
why I
of you
don't
ought to meet with Jamie.
keep it on there.
And bring those issues up. And,
Sure.
let's get them resolved.
Right, and there are certain things that inherent in us being a municipality versus a private golf course, which is
Yeah.
slightly different the way the insurance coverage is too, but
Mhm.
absolutely make sure you both are
Yeah, they should.
comfortable with what it is, just
Right.
make sure you see.
Well, that's what I'm looking for. I don't need a gray area when it comes to that. If a problem arises, and next thing you know, it's the town versus me, that's not the way I see this operation. I think we're all here together.
I don't
And
think so.
We just don't want to assume anything.
Yes, correct.
Without
I don't
knowing
assume.
it's
Absolutely.
actually there.
But I do know that most municipal policies, as long as you're a paid employee on the
Paid employee,
payroll, you
yeah.
don't need to be named by name.
Mhm.
This is like your.
Well, it's like
position is
it's like the automobile insurance. If I wanted to, if I wanted to, borrow a truck from, to go pick up something, as a town employee, you're covered by the town's, insurance for the motor vehicle operation. If your name's on the list of people who can operate town vehicles.
I mean, we have liability insurance and we employ 10 bartenders. And we don't name anybody by name. It's just a policy that covers the liability of the legal liability.
Employees are covered. They don't have to.
Well, employees are
Yeah,
covered. The
employees are
question,
covered,
the question
yeah.
we have is that both of those licenses were named on them.
correct.
We're named, Dana's named on the liquor
Specifically.
license, and I'm named on the license for the gas tank. That's
Well,
why.
The
we're asking-
I'm licensed to name it on my name.
Yeah, on your name, yeah.
Yeah.
So you
but-
need your name covered on the insurance.
But see, you're the boss.
automatically
You're the,
Everyone is covered, management and employees.
I think it would be a good idea to have Jamie reach out.
Check,
He is-
I-
he's
but I
prepared
think
to
that's
check.
normal.
He
Just
can
check it.
Read the technical part of it and let him make a decision on it.
Right, just to make sure.
Yeah, it's better to be safe than sorry. I mean, it's not
The
gonna
shirt,
cost us
I mean,
anything.
I
It's not
mean,
gonna
they
cost us
are-
anything.
It's
to
just
not even
wording.
look
It's
at
an
it.
extra sentence or two.
Now, the health insurance is a different thing than the liability insurance.
oh, yeah, yeah. Yes,
Health insurance.
That one you have to have names on.
They're still negotiating health
If
insurance.
somebody has a drink or something, falls out of a car or something, then all of a sudden Dana's name is on the thing.
Right. and I gotta go to court.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Well,
fair.
most of them are gonna
It's
throw
not
it
fair
in
to
anybody anyway.
If somebody leaves the town that's intoxicated, that's the insurance he's looking for to cover himself.
Cover the town and myself.
Well, the town has already covered himself in you, but you want it to be specifically
I most
that,
certainly do.
that's, and I just don't know if the insurance do
Well,
that.
that's why I said.
I mean, if
let an attorney like Jamie, you know, give us some information on that.
Yeah,
It's not gonna cost us anything.
I think it's a normal thing.
Yeah,
Well, in speaking with the other
Because
directors
if
of golf
anything
at
happens,
Dennis
who goes to
Highlands,
court
and
is
Old
me,
Barnstable, their
not the
directors of golf
employee.
are not listed on the liquor
Well,
license.
yeah, but
I am listed on the liquor
you
license.
won't- that's a private,
So, that's why I'm
private
pointing it
company
out.
that you own. It's not a, it's a whole different.
This is a town, so it's a municipality, it's private, right? It's owned by Acushnet, right?
Yeah.
I won't hurt you.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking.
But, hey, what else is new?
Okay. Alright, so now we got last item, maintenance update.
Okay, so we have a few things we'll go through here rather quickly. First of all, as far as conditions are concerned, overall, we're in good shape for this time of year. We've had some fluctuations in temperature, going from 80 degrees on a Saturday to 29 degrees and frost on a Monday, which has kind of played havoc with the growth rate of turf, and coupling that with being down approximately 2 inches of rain for the month of April. It's the only thing I'm concerned about is all that work that we did last fall and to get things back and recovered. Haven't had a chance to recover yet because of the weather and because there's no moisture and because that we're pounding, just pounding carts on top of carts on top of carts. So, hopefully we get a little break this Sunday and get a little bit of natural rain and can give us a little opportunity to recover and to get a jump start. Right now, at this point, we're about 75% of what our normal maintenance routine is. We cut greens 4 days a week now, roll the other 2 days a week. Once we get into the swing of things, obviously we'll be cutting 7 days a week, and hopefully we can roll a minimum of 2, hopefully 3. I did want to remind everyone that what aeration is. Our primary aeration is May 8th and 9th. The week of the 24th of April, which is next week, we'll be doing a venting. I hope to get it all done on Monday the 24th. With a little bit of jumping around and what have you, we should be able to get that accomplished. What venting is it just provides a temporary opening in the soil. It's they use a bayonet tine I use a bayonet tine. It kind of looks like the end of a kitchen knife or a steak knife or a sword. It goes down about 3 inches and leaves an opening that allows for gas and oxygen exchange and allows the microorganisms in the soil to get a little relief as well. And once we vent, then we roll, so it really doesn't have an interruption to golf of any or putting to any great extent. And we'll be doing that on Monday. The irrigation system, we filled the irrigation system on the 11th of April. Everything went fine on the day that we actually filled the irrigation system. We had a little bit of a problem getting the system to prime. I think we may have to look at replacing some seals and what have you in portions of the pump house. After a while, they just don't hold what's called vacuum as well as they should. But then once we had the system filled, we were experiencing problems with the flow regulation. We have an inline flow sensor, and the flow sensor actually dictates to the entire control panel or brain of the irrigation system how things are supposed to come on and off. It's based on flow and it's based on pressure. Well, unfortunately, our flow meter wasn't reading. So when the flow meter doesn't read, then the control panel doesn't know when to turn on the second pump. for instance, or for any pump for that matter. First time I set the irrigation cycle up was the day of the fill, and for some reason the flow meter didn't work that night. We pumped out 340 gallons of water and the entire pump station shut down. The reason that is because it doesn't know which pump to call on. The smaller one, which only goes up to 60 gallons a minute, the number one pump, which goes up to 575 to 600 gallons a minute, or the number two pump, which has the same capacity as the number one. It doesn't know which one to choose, so it doesn't choose any, and it just shuts itself off. So, long and short of that is we got the flow meter replaced. Took a day and a half to get one. We got it in there, got the flow meter replaced. Now everything is working properly, and I've been able to irrigate without an issue. The one problem we do have right now is that the heat exchanging unit, which regulates the temperature inside the electric control panel, doesn't seem to want to work. And we keep on getting alarms for the heat exchanger. We've determined that the heat exchanger has its own little brain that tells it when to come on when temperature goes up and down. And the folks at Precision Pumping Systems have determined that the brain isn't working. So we're going to have to get a new part to put in there so it knows how to regulate the temperature. Right now it's not a big deal because the daytime temperatures aren't high, but what it does is it prevents the inside of that control panel from getting above 85 to 90 degrees. It's basically what it is a radiator. The little brain tells it to come on at a certain temperature. It blows air across cooling coils into the control panel. There's two fans inside the control panel which blow the cold air up, keeps everything at the right temperature. So we're working on getting that part replaced, but we are able to irrigate. We had a few issues filling the system, a couple stuck on heads, but nothing major. So right now, we've been we're moving along with the irrigation system. Hope to have that heat exchanger fixed within the next week or so. So an update on the cart pass and the patches on the 7th and 9th holes. We started asphalting cart paths yesterday. The actual asphalt work was completed yesterday. Today, the berming or curbing on the 2nd hole was completed, as well as the patching on the 7th and 9th holes. We will be opening the 7th and 9th patched areas tomorrow. They'll be fine by that point. The one thing I've learned in all of this is that when we do a cart path of that extensive length, it really requires that we either become a 9-hole golf course for a day or be closed, because it's just amazing what people will do and where people will go on top of steaming hot asphalt. We know today, for instance, we didn't have the curb by the forward tee on the 3rd hole down for 5 minutes. Guy turns her back, someone walks up, steps right on top of the curb. They're lucky they didn't burn their foot. The stuff was still hot at 2:30 in the afternoon when I tested it. And what happens with the asphalt just retains heat, and it's got to cool and harden, because you can stick your thumb through it. Yeah. It's got to cure. And what happens, you can put 500 signs up there, but a guy not paying attention with his cart takes that tire, hits that curb, it's going to push it right off. So luckily, we were able to avoid all that today by rerouting the cart traffic on the 2nd hole and protecting the edge with ropes and putting big ugly signs out that said, "Please do not step on the curb."
Sent all the leagues off the back as well.
Started play off the back today. So all that stuff is done. What we need to do now is we need to backfill, grade, and either seed or sod the edges of where the cart path was installed. That's going to be done in phases. The first phase is going to start next week with addressing the area by the berm on the 2nd hole, right by the new bunker and new sod work, and then we'll continue to do the other areas as time and resources allow. What I would recommend, though, is keeping at least a significant portion of that 2nd hole, if not the whole hole, is cart path only, until these edges have been backfilled, graded, and grown in. Because in some places, there's an elevation difference on the edge of the cart path of about 4 to 6 inches. And all people are going to do by riding off of that, not only get a good bump themselves, but they're going to break down the edges of the cart path eventually. So if we just keep them on the cart path, there's no chance of riding over those exposed edges, and we'll be able to get in there and backfill them and grade them as soon as we
Question on the second. How's the turf doing? How's the turf doing in the bunker?
Good. I mean, it started to kick. I mean, we've once we got the irrigation system up, we went full throttle on hand watering, and now with a little bit warmer weather, it's gone from that stray color to about that straw color to about 75% green, 30% brown, and with a little bit more weather and a decent soaking, it'll be ready. It's starting to knit in places, most of it, one of the ways you tell it just by grabbing the top, you can't pull it up anymore, so it's knitted into the topsoil that was put there. So another week or so, we'll be able to put sand in that bunker, week and a half maybe, and then we'll, within probably the second week of May, be able to open that all up. And I just want to get the curbing backfilled, and I want to get the sod adjacent to the curb put in and let that knit, and then we'll be ready to go. And the only thing, I was going to touch on that bunker later. The only thing that remains to do with that bunker, besides putting the sand in, is taking the bunker edge and going around and putting the final edge on the bunker, which we'll do when we're right before we're ready to open it. In that handout that I gave you, you're going to see a page that has what's called a Watchdog 3000 series weather station. I'd like to purchase a weather station that this particular weather station hooks directly to our irrigation system through our Link Central Controller. What I can do with, the many things that you can do with this, the weather station will measure temperature, relative humidity, rainfall, wind speed direction, solar radiation, and what have you. One of the nice things about it is I can set the rain gauge up, so if I get 1/4 of an inch of rain, this weather station will shut off the irrigation system if it's scheduled to be irrigating. Or if it's actually in the process of irrigating and you receive 1/4 inch of rainfall or whatever value I set it at, it will shut the irrigation system off. Another thing that this will allow us to do, it measures evapotranspiration, so it gives you a better idea of how much water what you want to do when you're irrigating is you want to replace the amount of water that you lost during a particular period of time to evaporation and transpiration. It will give you that value of what you have lost over a specified period of time. Then you can set your irrigation system accordingly to replace what you've lost. It also provides to you data on growing degree days, high temperature of the day, warm temperature of the day. It reports this information directly back to the central controller, and it'll also report to you back information that you can use in disease prediction models to have an idea of when you're going to be most susceptible to diseases such as dollar spot, brown patch, and what have you. If you look at it, it describes the features that it is integrated with our control system and what it provides. The cost of the system plus the what we'd be mounting it behind the 18th green on a pole. So that would be the cost of the weather station plus the link to the Lynx system and plus the mounting materials to put it up is approximately $4,000. Maybe a little bit less because I think we can do the pole mounting and stuff ourselves. We wouldn't have to have somebody do that. So I would like to see if we have a consensus if that's something I believe is something worth investing in. It moves us a little bit further on technologically speaking, and it also gives us some valuable information for our specific site, as opposed to getting weather information from the New Bedford Airport or the the NOAA folks who were stationed over in, I think it's in Taunton at the industrial park there. This is our own sensor on our own property, which gives us that information. And the reason for setting it up by the 18th green is you need to have in order for it to communicate with links, you need to have a clear path of communication back to the central controller, which is in the shop. So we should be able to achieve that by putting it up there in proximity to the 18th green.
We wouldn't be in a position where somebody would hit it with a golf ball with it.
Well, it's going to be about 15 feet up in the air, and it's going to be closer to the putting green than it is going to be to the 18th green. So if somebody were to hit it with a golf ball, if that golf ball missed, it would probably be hitting the pro shop or the tent or the person down there cooking at the grill. So I don't think it's going to be in danger, but in a municipal golf course, I'm not going to guarantee that it won't happen. But it will be mounted up on a pole, probably about 12 to 15 feet in the air. What we have to do is it has to be mounted, then you have to test it. And as soon as you find that length, that height where it's going to communicate easily back to the central controller, then you're all set.
Bob's gonna go.
Have a good week.
Nice to see you, Bob.
You'd be out of here for 6.
Right, yeah, I gotta get up by 6 anyway. We've got a meeting coming in, so, all right, got a few minutes left.
Well, let's do it.
Well, I mean, that's why I mentioned, I mean, if it's a go, I can, if people feel that that's an appropriate expense to that money, then they can go ahead with it. I can order it, get it out here, get it installed, and get
I'll
it
make
working.
that motion to approve.
All in favor? All right.
You second?
He actually did.
Wow.
Next,
He was hoping you denied it. You didn't see him, you didn't feel him kick you in the leg?
Well,
next,
I wanna be the weatherman.
next thing I list,
I wanna have
I
that
make a
job.
motion to approve the hydro seed. 1,400.
Speeding right along.
that'll
What is
take,
that?
Right down the bottom.
Oh, I just see. That's 6,500?
No.
no, that's,
So 1,250.
no,
Square feet, I'm sorry.
6,500 is a square
Square
footage.
feet, yeah.
That's not the cost.
$1,200.
Yeah, probably.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
I wanted to, again, mention, we discussed this one time before about GPS
He's on a
mapping
hot streak.
of the irrigation system. That would include core structures, location points. If I can take a minute, I'll read to you the synopsis.
Can't
that,
be running out of time. We gotta-
Get the next one.
I don't think we're ready to.
Next topic, then I'll pass
Save
it
that
down.
one for next year.
Tabled.
Table that one.
All right, well, we already spoke about the greenside bunker on the second hole. I have contacted a company called Solitude Lake Management, waiting to hear back from their representative in the New England area. We're going to do a review of our ponds and come up with solutions for the weed encroachment, as well as a management program and erosion of the embankments.
Who's that? Who did you get in touch with?
It's a company called Solitude Lake Management.
Did we ever get in touch with our guy representing the town?
Conservation.
The Conservation
Person?
Commission. I've talked to Pat, a couple times, and I haven't actually had him out to the site. He's available, from 8
We
o'clock in the
should
morning to 12.
pursue that before we get somebody from the outside.
Yeah,
See what he tells us.
Especially when the original orders of conditions doesn't have any maintenance.
No, that's why.
So you need to bring that to his attention and say, how do we get a clear understanding of what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing?
Yeah, you're gonna have to. From my experience, you're gonna have to. As was mentioned from one of the previous companies we discussed, you're gonna have to file a notice of intent in order to have a management plan created.
Right.
I mean, I was a conservation commissioner on the conservation commission for 7 years, so we did that all the time. So that's probably what's going to have to be done. But
Well,
I
then
will-
you can do it for us.
I will. Oh, I can't do it. I was on the committee who approved or disapproved them. I don't physically go out and do it. So I will talk with Pat and see
Talk
if
to
he-
him and see what he tells
We'll
us.
see if he has time to come out and look at it and get his input from
Oh,
it.
he's gotta find time.
I did want to mention that I'd like to do some recontouring on a couple of the fairways initially. We're looking at the 2nd, the 9th, and the 10th fairways. On the 2nd fairway, we're going to bring it in a little bit right past the rock where the cart path takes a turn to the left. Just because we moved the cart path a little bit, we're trying to get a little bit more rough there between the cart path and the fairway. Previous to moving the cart path over, we had 1.5 feet. We'd like to get about 4 additional feet on that side. What the recontouring would consist of is Kevin and I going out there, flagging it out, standing back on the tee, making sure the shape is appropriate, understanding where people land. There are very few people that land in the short end of that fairway, but there are some that do, so we'd be keeping that, recognizing that. And then we've already done a recontour in the 10th fairway, and we're also looking to do one on the 9th fairway to bring the right side fairway edge in a little bit so we can extend rough further, but also extend that forward tee because it's just too small. We have to make it bigger. We're not going to do that right now, but this fall I'd like to get in there. If we recontour the fairway now, and then the fall we can get in there and we can push that tee forward, but make that tee
Consider
bigger.
recontouring the left side of 9,
That we could do that at the same time.
because it's always,
Yeah.
there's not enough there to keep it
Right,
from
the
going.
ball's-
Well, that's the problem that we've been seeing, is that people hit relatively good shots, but there's nothing there to hold the
Right.
ball.
Yeah.
It just
That's
goes
kind
into
of
the
what
woods.
Right out.
Mark
Yeah.
Munchin was saying, we need to
Yeah,
bring that in.
bring them in, yeah. So that's that, and the last thing I wanted to mention is golf carts in the parking lot seem to be getting more and more of an issue. People are coming down and they bring their golf carts and God knows what they're taking out of their car and putting into their bags and putting into their coolers in the back of the golf cart. Not only is that a safety issue, I mean, we spoke earlier about liability and insurance-wise. They're bringing alcoholic and beverages and other beverages onto the property that aren't being sold on the property. That's like going into your restaurant, Manny, and popping open my own bottle of wine and pouring it on the table, getting drunk on it, and then coming after
We
you.
don't allow you to.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we could curtail a good bit of that if we were to keep the golf carts from going into the parking lot. And in the last 2 weeks, I've seen 3 guys almost get hit in the parking lot because they cut across the median and people were backing up on one side and don't even see them, and they come up and cut behind them. Almost had one guy plastered by the sod delivery truck the other day because he cut right behind it. And I mean, you can't see them.
Can we put in some
And now we have,
gates or something on?
well, what I'm saying, you could put, obviously we're not going to do anything permanent right now but you could put temporary structures up that would keep the golf carts in that staging area, and we could provide a temporary opening or fence, a gate, so when they needed to be refueled, they could go out the gate and come back in. I just think, we have a bag drop. We need to get people to realize that you drive up, you place your bag in the bag drop, you park your car, and then you come get your cart. I don't know of any other facility, at least not that I've worked at, that allows you to take a golf cart into the parking lot. It's very
The only
dangerous.
way you can do it, you gotta block the way at the what do you call it, the trailer, that the carts can't go out. And have a boy there that will, normally is the water station, and he sprays the cart and then he puts it away.
Yeah.
Don't let the people go to the thing.
So we had talked about this in the past, and we were talking about doing that as such, and then one of the guys actually brought up an idea or a concern was when we have tournaments and they're done with playing, there's no breathing space to get out of there. If you had everybody just dropping their cots and you're blocking them from getting out, you can't exit the place. So when we do this, I'm not opposed to it, but we have to put in a plan that allows an allocated space that you can take all those cots and spin them around and put them in place where they need to be.
That's why I think it needs to be a temporary thing. So to Dana's point,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, if you
once
can move it.
once everybody's out in an outing, and you know they're all going to come back in a shotgun at
You
a
can take
crazy
it down.
time, say, okay, let's move these barriers over here so we have this bigger area to put them, put them in. I mean, one of the worst things about it is, I mean, heaven, all those people, they come in and they just park everywhere.
Mhm.
Heaven forbid you have a fire, because the fire truck ain't going to be
They
able to
ain't
plow
getting
through the golf carts to get to where the fire is, because they put them all over the place. It's like helter skelter. But if you have a contained area,
I've been trying to have something done for a long time, and we toss it around.
It's tough to,
And the only thing that I can see is us to, where the flagpoles are, and put a fence around there, and then this area, when you need to stage the cars over there, you put them there. If not, they leave the car there, they take it back to their car, and you get the thing, and you get the pen where you can put your cards. And you wash them, the what do you call it, the power washer is there, you spray them and put them away. You gotta have a couple of boys there when you have an outing, when you come with that much traffic in, or even 2 or 3. And then that's the only way you're gonna control it. If you
So-
put a fence that they can't get out.
Right. I was thinking the same thing, like maybe even just a post and rail fence along with
Yeah.
the.
well, you
That's
think
grass.
they're
At the
temporary
At the country
barriers.
club,
Like,
we got a night, and they don't say anything up, but it's very difficult to get out to the parking lot.
And then
Because
block-
you come up, there's only a little way that you go out, and usually we leave the carts right in there.
who at the
Bad
club?
guys will come out, they come
In
out,
Bedford?
yeah,
I'll have to go take a look at it.
they
see
come
what's
out
set
and
up.
then they just drive around and go downstairs washing them and put them away underneath the building.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not opposed, I just, before we do anything, I
But you
definitely.
gotta
well, we
draw 'em
gotta,
up.
plan together.
we just can't go out and buy
Yeah.
some. We gotta come up with an idea.
Right,
I'm just,
kind of lay it out.
it just, it seems as
Correct.
though it's gotten worse. And now we have tailgaters in the parking
I
lot.
did notice that.
The other day, when we were
But
filling
you
the
can
irrigation
reroute it.
system,
Make them bring them up by the tent, and they gotta leave it there, and then go, and then you got a way to go and put them away. The thing that's gonna do is get the cats away from what you have them now and go back to the pen.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking about painting on the garbage things, no tailgating.
they sit out in the park and they bring their
Bring chairs,
They
tables.
pull their chairs out and then they park there. And when they, half of them, they take the golf cart, they take the back. I mean, heaven forbid we need another cart because he's
Yeah.
sitting down there at the end of it with an empty cart tailgate.
What we do when we see drinking in the parking lot,
What they do, when it happens, is sitting down way out near his building, I can't see
Yeah, he
anything.
needs a pair of binoculars to say they don't do it
Yeah,
right up
but-
front.
our parking lot is bigger than your building.
Yes.
Than from your trailer to his building. And when we see a car out there, or the guys going around and they're sitting around the car, and if we go in and we see them drinking, I just call the cops and they come in and they tell them,
I grab the horn.
you can't bring it outside here.
Right. I grab the horn and embarrass them. No tailgating, bring the cots in, please.
That's it.
Do you want to try and pick a next date, or?
You should.
Yeah.
Maybe we should send the cops to confiscate the beer. It's a profit center.
Sometime in May, right?
I would hope so.
Now, if Dane had mentioned that the league starts, so you might want to think of days other than what, Thursday?
You can do Thursday, it just has to be later than 4 o'clock, because they bill out from 4 to
I'll
5.
be out of commission until sometime in mid-May.
So if you got Thursdays, you got the 4th, obviously, which is right around the corner, the 11th, the 18th, and the
Because
25th.
the 26th, I don't come home until the 29th. They may keep me there for 3 days because of the AFib. And then by then I have a week and a half at least that the nurse comes to the house and
One thing
does all the therapists, so,
I'll
not
mention
gonna
is
be
that
navigating. for driving.
my son graduates from PA school on the 19th. So after work on the 18th, I'm leaving for
Right.
Poughkeepsie, New York. Unfortunately, my
Congratulations.
daughter graduates from as a speech pathologist on the 19th as well. So my wife will be going to URI, and I'll be going Marist and Poughkeepsie. So
Next meeting is
So
If it's late May, I'll be available, but
Do the last week of May then, right?
17,
If you're
20.
late May, he's late May.
25.
is that too late?
The week of the 22nd? Or the week of the 20th, yeah.
Yeah, we can say the 25th, but I may or may not be on the 25th, I just don't know yet. We can say it for now. And that's better for everybody.
25th?
25, maybe the Thursday.
All right.
At what, 4:30, 4?
I'll say 4:30. So May 25th, 4:30. I'll let John know if we need to change it. We'll figure it out.
All right.
So I think
Good evening,
we
gentlemen.
need a motion to adjourn, Manny.
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, thank you.